E te iwi tēnā katoa koutou, tēnā tātou I roto I tēnei pō. Che Wilson here from Te Pai Pai Waho, Che's channel, and I've got some manuhiri tonight. But before we get into that, just acknowledging everybody here and everybody that's linking in through the various pages to Te Pai Pai Waho tonight, where it's a change of kaupapa from last week, where for the last few weeks I've been talking about tangihanga, and we'll be talking tonight about the launch of this book, Waihiko, and the launch of the kaupapa Waihiko, which was pretty awesome to have. I'll be present me ki, and so I've got a couple of manuhiri that will be with us sharing in the journey about Waihiko. And Waihiko is about creating a space where new things come into the culture. How do we indigenize those new things? And so going to introduce our manuhiri, which are Hori Mataki and Hana Tapiata, who are part of the Ariki creative team that are here tonight to share more on Waihiko, the Atua of electricity. Nā reira, kia uru mai rā te tokorua, tēnā kōrua. Sounds in the background, Hori, there's a bit of echo. But tēnā kōrua, e mihi ana kia kōrua. Really good to have you both here tonight. And I'm going to pass it over to you both to introduce yourselves. Going with you first, Hana.
Tēnā koe e hoa, pai tiki te ko tai haumari ki te kāinga. Kia ora everyone, ko Hana Tapiata hau. He uri no ngā mata waka o te ka maui mai te tai rāwhiti ki te puku o te ika, ki Waikato hoki. Being part of the Waihiko kaupapa for the last 6 months. And it wasn't the first time I heard about the story though, so Hori's been sitting on it for a while, and it's been pretty awesome to come in and develop it and be able to give it the energy it deserves, I think, to get it to this point to launch.
Cool. Tēnā koe Hana and Hori. Tēnā hoki koe. Over to you to introduce who you are before we get into our kaupapa.
Well, tēnā tātou, ko Hori te Ariki Mataki tōku ingoa. E uri hau no te whānau punu Ngāti Parau, Maitahu, Ngāti Kauwhata, te ate haunua paparangi, ko e te kauhutu Ariki Creative. Yeah, kia ora.
Sure. So really good to have you both on tonight. And as I said, we're going to be talking about Waihiko. And let's just get into it. So Waihiko, she's the atua of electricity that we've created. And Hori, I think we'll hand it straight over to you to have the first day. Tell us about the journey.
Oh, yeah.
Who's allowed to create atua?
So I guess the journey started, it's a continuation of a journey that I feel like my tupuna had, and fostering kids around our town, Nototahi, fostering those that didn't have things to into our family, growing up in Christchurch, and within fostering into our whānau, we learned a bit about how to share what we had, the positive things our whānau had, and had to the gifts that we had to give those whānau. So long story short, part of that journey was about understanding what it was to be the leaders in our community, and why they were doing those things, and trying to make the next generation have a better than the generation before them. So understanding that role of my tupuna and those leaders in our community, was thinking of what is our generation's gift to the next, and what do we have that our tupuna didn't have, that we can create from our own experiences that inform a better way to handle the environments that we face today. So in doing that, I grew up, just like every other kid, playing video games and jumping on the internet. And when it first came out in 1995, I remember that. I remember getting the first computer, and computers and PCs being new to our community. So I remember those things. At the same time, learning about te reo and tikanga at the exact same time. So going through this process as a digital native, we call it, going from an analog generation to a digital. It's carrying over some of those values and things that are in the analog generation to help the next generation that are going to be born into technology, going to be born with internet and devices, smart things all around them. Some of those things that our tupuna gave us, things like the environment and our origins, our whakapapa, and to not lose sight of those things, to know that wairua and whakapapa is important. No matter if we're on the internet, no matter where we are, the environments remain the same. And the thing that I feel like we've forgotten about is the genesis of the technologies that we have, the materials that make all of our devices, they still come from Papatūānuku. And it's really just a continuation of those kōrero. As someone that works in technology every day, so context to what I do for a job, I've been in the digital space for 14 years, and as well as helping others to get onto this kaupapa digital technology and in our own mahi, so whāngai, taking people on the waka and showing them what they can do, the potential of their own skills, from creative arts to video to web and animation. If they got this amazing tool that we have, which is digital and computers, and to propel them into a future that they might not have ever seen before. So in those experiences that I've had over the past 14 years, it's just saying, how do we hand that tool and how do we hand that koha to the next generation so they can understand all the ups and downs of this new world, this new environment. So and from that come the purpose and the need for an atua, or the purpose and the need for a true, authentic whakapapa connection to this new environment that we live in. And it wrote itself, really. Atuas exist, we don't write them, they just.
So on that point, bro, about the need to create an atua, those of you that watched Te Kōkō Muka, we talked about the need to create atua, and I'd said, there's an atua that's going to be shared soon. And we discussed that during the lockdown. And so that atua is this atua, Waihiko, the atua of electricity. And she's like the voice of the atua as well, in one sense. So awesome, Hori. Hana, I know you've only been part of the journey for a short time, but what was your contribution to this?
As far as I know, the Ariki creative work to create or bring to life kaupapa and stories for clients or for other people. And this is the first project that's been developed by Ariki Creative or in-house. And I think one of the other reasons why it's been, it was just an idea or got mocked up into a concept it was about 4 years ago, I think the original piece, 4 or 5 years ago, is because there hasn't been someone to just give their time to bring it to fruition or to produce the book, and then for it to serve a purpose beyond just being a cool story that, got you excited, and maybe you saw a connection to Te Ao Māori from a Māori worldview, but then what? Yeah. Well, and I think still the divide there.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, is the then what, because when I think about what happened at the hui today, there was at the launch, is there will be people that will be questioning, are you allowed to create an atua? Is that the right whakapapa of the atua? And my responses, which I shared at the meeting today, at the hui today, is in the South Island, they talk about mahu nui or mahu tū ki te rangi. Where I'm from, we talk about tahuarangi. And on Hori's other side, they talk about nukutai memeha. Each of them are the waka of Maui. Are they wrong or are they different? And what I love about this, and was it about 5 years ago, bro? Well, I walked into your office and you said, hey, I'm thinking about creating an atua. And what I love about this is that if you disagree with the whakapapa, then create your own story that has root in your whakapapa. Or look for something else that needs to be done. Because this is the opportunity where we use tupuna wisdom and the legacy of our tupuna knowledge to help guide us so that we can then see ourselves in this new stuff, rather than just always going back to Thomas Edison, who created the first light bulb. So, Hana, you were talking to me about other people questioning the Atua. So for the viewers, Waihiko's parents are Tamanui Te Rā and Te Rua Kore Kore. Talk about some of the challenges, Hana.
Yeah, and so with all of the mahi I do outside of Ariki Creative as well, it's all about interpreting tupuna mā tauranga, whakapapa and kōrero tuku iho to apply to a modern context. And up until now, there have been iwi variations of the kōrero, but there's still the main lines that we go through. And with electricity, it's generated in so many different ways. So the potential for who or what that whakapapa looks like varies as well. And so I got challenged on why isn't Mahuika and Auahi Tūroa her parents, because the comet and fire, you can generate electricity from there. Or some others were about Tamateira and how there are already names that our tupuna had for electricity. So why are we creating a new one? Which have been fun to be part of, because I think it challenges our thinking around, you touched on it today, about tradition, or how we think tikanga is tradition, and that it has to stay that way, or that we can't evolve our understanding of the world and how we connect to it any further than what our tupuna have done since colonization, which is kind of where those pūrākau kind of end.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I think one of the biggest enemies of tikanga is the translation, tradition. Because tradition has ghosts, every word has ghosts behind it, has stories behind it, which will make people think one way only about that word. And tradition means that you can't change anything often. Whereas tikanga is supposed to be agile and adapting all of the time. And Hori, going to you, it's taken you 5 years to get to this place. And possibly a bit longer, but can you talk about some of the ups and downs of the journey for Waihiko?
Yep. So I guess our community, ups and downs, we're pretty used to having ups and downs, and how we address those ups and downs is important. So one of the downs that I experienced was some rangatahi in a focus group feeling a sense of fear and anxiety around social media, and I guess being cyberbullied or bullied online by some of the people at their school, and how they really want to avoid going online because of that, and just the damage that things like a cell phone can do these days of simple texting, from texting to taking photos and videos. And if you think of all of our kids that have these devices now, like what they could do to their own lives and their own legacy if they do, or something happens to them on those devices, can impact their whakapapa. And that was really the genesis of the idea. It was like, well, how do you tell kids it's wrong without them really seeing themselves, or there being no real rules around it? And I just thought, oh, maybe it's the generation that they come up with it, that there's no one to tell them, no one to guide them. So that was really just saying, okay, that's for us, for my generation, for the ones that lived outside of cameras and videos, being a simple as pull it out of your pocket generation, to go, okay, it's our role to kind of create some parameters and rules. So that was the first down, thinking that, that's a weight on our generation to actually teach them something, and to hopefully create a understanding and awareness around how destructive these things can be, not only to the kids' lives, but others' lives. There's a disconnect when we put a screen up and we put a camera up, but somehow it's not a person anymore. It's this other thing. And that's where the light bulb moment, no pun intended with Waihiko, but the light bulb was like, well, that's, what is it when we talk to each other online? What is it when we ring people? What is this electronic version of us? It's not ourselves, it's something different. We take a photo, we can manipulate it and stuff, but it's still kind of like us. Where that was the genesis of the idea of a spirit and a Waihiko. So Waihiko being a digital spirit, our digital selves. We interact with it probably more than we do with a lot of our atua of the past, yet we don't acknowledge it in that sense. So, and in that, I guess, is the biggest up, and that was the biggest, I guess, a light bulb moment, the biggest potential for us to shape a different future forward for us in the way we think in terms of mātauranga Māori in a modern context, and what we can do with this, and how we can not only indigenize the digital space, but every space that we walk into now, like the Māori party within whare parimata, and indigenizing how they dress and how they look and how they exactly this. And that's awesome. And it's our time to be there, and we can be unapologetic about that. And it's awesome. And that's why I feel like no matter what the ups and downs we weren't ready. I don't think at the time of the story, and I wasn't ready, and Tal wasn't ready. But now, because we're so surrounded by digital, we hear misinformation on a daily basis. Yet we don't create things coming from a modi of our own. So that's where the Waihiko journey and stuff is. And now's the time. And thanks to Hana being able to push us to launch it, and COVID as well. So from the biggest impact we've had around digital, we all lived on our computers last year, and we all lived on Zoom, and wasn't the best experience, I must say. But from that comes these fruits, the opportunities and the potential of better things. And that's really the crux of our stories of Te Kore and Te Marama and these things, like the potential of that space, the potential of those negative things. So yeah,
cool. Well, and the cool thing about all of this is that it's more than a book. Which one of you wants to talk about it being more than a book?
Yeah, okay. So that's and then what?
Yeah.
So we created the puraka, or the narrative, to describe an element that's always been there, but even we weren't ready to engage with her or with Waihiko up until recent years, when our technology and capacity got up to scratch to be able to harness that energy. And this is one of the first puraka where we're actually living it at the same time that it's created. And so we see the detrimental impact that our actions are having on the taiao, and the taiao is letting us know in all the different ways, and combining or reuniting Waihiko with those other elements or those other atua is how we get that renewable energy. And so the book is also that blueprint on how to behave and how to conduct yourself. And at the end, there's a call to action. These are the consequences if you do this. This is the potential impact if you choose this way. So how are you going to contribute to that story? How are you going to add your own flavor or your own twist to Waihiko's story? And that guides you to a platform that we've created called Te Ara Waihiko, which can help direct you or direct people to the different pathways and opportunities in the digital space, as well as resources, tutorials for all ages and abilities, to upskill or to connect them with other kaupapa that are already going on. And so one of the main things was when we were building the platform, was that it would be a connector rather than we do everything and try to look after everyone, is that there are already kaupapa, already programs and initiatives going on by people in their communities. So how can we tautoko them and promote what they're already doing, and try to push more people to be part of those and go through that pipeline as well.
Well, and
amongst other things.
Really cool to see Ariki Creative through the Waihiko.io or Waihiko.io, to also have through Te Ara Waihiko a link to Te Pai Tata back home in Ruapehu. So cheer for that. Really cool. I was sitting there. My sister was sitting in the audience too. Oh, there's home. So really cool. And I think that's the thing, is that what I love about the website is it takes you to links, not just to cool stuff in the digital area that others are doing, but also you've got tutorials. Why did you develop the tutorials, Hori?
So the tutorials will literally come after the lockdown. we were part of the Manaki 20 kaupapa with Te Pūtaitanga in the South Island, which was a southern iwi approach to dealing with the pandemic. And during that time, like what we're doing right now, we're connecting over a live stream. A lot of our whānau didn't have access to devices. A lot of our whānau didn't have good internet, or our kaumātua didn't know how to connect or who to ring, or all those sort of things. So during the pandemic, me and my wife and our team put together a bunch of ways for those packs to be sent out with some guides and some simple tutorials, like how do you turn on the device, how do you connect the Wi-Fi, what is Wi-Fi, what's the difference between Apple and a PC, and these simple stuff that we forget that not everyone is savvy on these devices. So starting one. Yeah.
And one of the people in the audience today, Sir Mark Solomon, he actually asked that question. He says, what about any tutorials for dummies? Because you got those dummy books, and that was what your response was, which is really cool, because you have the basics through to other things where people can then learn. Because Damo is teaching how to do different stuff and create your own videos and all of that,
So I think one tutorial that we could put directly into the list straight away would be for all those rangatahi out there that have kaumātua that don't know how to use devices, to start teaching them, get in there and start to record them talking about their experiences as a kid. And literally if you do that for a week, you'll have a ton of kōrero, you'll time travel, you'll go back and hear all their kōrero, you'll understand all this stuff, and you'll be able to keep those taonga forever. And it might only take you a week, and you'll be able to trade your mātauranga between the generations. They might learn a bit about how to jump on a Facebook Live, or them, and the kaumātua will be able to teach them some gems from their knowledge of their growing up, some more rock and roll dance moves like manana, things like that.
Cool. So as we get ready to wrap up, Hana, what's your low light and your highlight
of the kaupapa so far?
Yeah.
Our highlight would be producing a version of the story in Te Reo Māori, and also translating the page, the entire site into Te Reo Māori as well. Being an alumni of Aho Matua and Kura Kaupapa, we were given a lot by our kaiako, and they created this awesome world for us, fully immersed in Te Reo Māori, but we also missed out on some opportunities because they didn't offer it in Te Reo. And so that was really important to me, to create that and tap into the networks that we already had within Ariki Creative in order to do that. So we had Five Charisma.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I didn't. And so Five Charisma, Rangipuna did that. The Waihiko kōrero translation, and then I translated the site. And then the low light will probably be trying to find other resources in Te Reo Māori to make that a bit easier. But you just create it until the next person or the next, so that more of those resources are available.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hori, I'm going to ask you a different question. It looks like there's a part 2, because there's Tamanui Te Rā and Te Rua Kore Kore, but then there's this link with tāwhaki. So I don't know, is that me just looking into something, or what?
Yeah, there's always potential with what? Because of the potential of the empty space, and I feel like that's what this could potentially open up. There's more questions about what we can and can't do, and thinking of our kids and what they might be needing in the future. There's stuff we just never know. So Kinez, and the role of tāwhaki is the mentor, and just like to acknowledge you, Hoa, for helping mentor us along this journey, making sure that we're going through the appropriate processes to acknowledge those tupuna and those Atua stories, so we're not getting too ahead of ourselves. And even before we wrap up, just to acknowledge our team, Ariki Creative team, as well as the Maui Studios team that illustrated the book, Te Pūtaitanga and Te Puni Kōkiri that helped us to get to the place we are now, and the lived experience that we've been able to do. Like the Waihiko story is a story, but it's also us as people realizing our potential using these devices and being able to free ourselves from, the things that we might have grown up with. So, kia ora.
Awesome. Well, tēnā kōrua, thanks for coming on tonight. I thought this is an awesome opportunity to link to you both, to share the amazingness that is Waihiko, and to share her with the world. Nā reira, e mihi kau atu ana kia kōrua o tira ki koutou katoa ariki creative. Me te wakaro nui I roto I te pātai puku, because there was this one little question that happened one day when I happened to pop over to Hori Zinum's office when I was living and working in Ngaitahu land. And that started a journey with this pretty spunky woman called Waihiko. So I love her cheek. I love the way that you've played with the idea. And as we go back to her parents, how you've also linked in the Maui capturing the sun, and then the whole relationship being going back together again. So te manui te ronga and te rua kore kore are Waihiko's parents. And if anyone's asking who te rua kore kore is, prior to te kore, there is this concept where ku tere tere te wai ki rua tupua, ka puta ko matua te kore, matua te pō, matua te ao. And rua kore kore is from that stage just before te kore. And so that's that potential to give birth to the universe that we know. And on that note, e te iwi, awesome to have Hori Mataki and Hana Tapiata. Tēnei kāminga te kia koutou I roto I tēnei pō, turuturu o iti hoka maua kia tīnā, tīnā, hui e.
Thank you.
Kia ora tātou.